Kiss stealing, woo, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun. Yeah! Kurt Angle, yeah! Why, Triple H, you son of a tell me why! And Tony Khan, this is also on you!
I am going to ruin wrestling.
Just get over it!
What is up? What is up? What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeRays, right here on episode 10 of the WrestleHavoc Podcast. Night of Champions is officially in the history books. Of course, we had CM Punk being his hypocritical self, going after John Cena in Saudi Arabia. CM Punk had quite the week, right? In Saudi Arabia. Got crapped on by the Saudi Arabian fans, of course, for that tweet from a couple years ago. But hey, we all say things in the past. And of course, CM Punk had that heartfelt apology. He mocked John Cena in his Doctor of Thugonomics. He dressed up like John Cena in 2003 and did a whole rap on John Cena this past Friday on SmackDown in Saudi Arabia, which actually got over. And then, of course, we had the match between both John Cena and CM Punk at Night of Champions last night, or I should say last afternoon, considering the show here in the East Coast took place at 1 p.m. So we're going to be talking about Night of Champions. We're going to be talking about John Cena and CM Punk. Cody Rhodes has won the King of the Ring tournament, and from what it looks like, we'll be facing John Cena at MetLife Stadium in SummerSlam. We also got Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill won the Queen of the Ring tournament, and from what it looks like, she is going to be going after Tiffany Stratton and her women's title. Could she get cashed in by Naomi if she wins? We're going to have to wait and see. But a lot of things happened last night at Night of Champions that we're going to be talking about. We're also going to be talking about Cody Rhodes. Is Cody Rhodes going to be turning heel at, or not just, I shouldn't say at, but maybe soon, relatively soon. Is Cody Rhodes going to be turning heel relatively soon? We're going to have to wait and see, guys. But we got a lot of things to cover right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast. Of course, we're going to be talking about Night of Champions. And before we get into all this craziness, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, if you guys are watching on the WNN app or on the WNN Facebook page or YouTube channel, I thank you guys very much. Follow those accounts as well. And without any further ado, let's get straight into the WrestleHavoc Podcast. We are going to kick off by talking about Night of Champions. Of course, Night of Champions took place in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and we had 6 matches on the card. And I'm going to be honest, the show, I wouldn't necessarily say it was a letdown. If anything, the show was actually pretty good. I enjoyed the show for what it was, but if you are a casual watching this show, there are only 2 matches that probably would pique your interest, and that was, of course, the main event with Punk and Cena, and the finals of the King of the Ring tournament, that being Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Everything else on the show, even though it was quality, I didn't really care for it as much, but they still delivered on every aspect. The crowd in Riyadh was absolutely phenomenal. I'm telling you that right now. The crowd in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia was off the chain. I really enjoyed the crowd. They 100% made this show. And that's really the case nowadays when WWE goes to Saudi Arabia, is the crowds in Saudi Arabia are phenomenal. They are phenomenal. And that's really the case every time when they go to an international market. So like if they go to the UK, if they go to Australia, if they go to, anywhere else, France, they're going to be headed to Paris in a couple of months with Clash in Paris. The crowds are always on top of their game, and they are always phenomenal. But we're going to be kicking off this show talking about Night of Champions 2025. Once again, we had 6 matches on this card. And again, the matches delivered, but if you are a casual fan, you only cared about 2 matches and 2 matches alone. Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton in the finals of the King of the Ring, and John Cena versus CM Punk. And we will be talking about in-depth John Cena versus CM Punk because that match was fantastic. I mean, I've always said this on previous shows. John Cena and CM Punk always have great chemistry with one another. They always have great chemistry whenever they're in the ring. Just watch Money in the Bank 2011 and watch that match that they had on Raw back in 2013. I mean, they've always had great chemistry in the ring, and the match that happened last night showed no difference in that. Like, seriously, it was just like any other John Cena and CM Punk match. Yes, they are older, but also the interference that was a part of that match made the match even 10 times better. Not to mention, the crowd was 100% invested. Every time these guys threw a shot, the crowd popped. But we will be talking about John Cena versus CM Punk in depth later on when we go through Night of Champions. But we're going to be kicking off Night of Champions by talking about Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Of course, both Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton were both members of this one faction called Legacy, if you guys don't remember, back in, what was it, 2009? Well, they of course ran it back in the finals of the King of the Ring tournament, and I think it was obvious that Cody Rhodes was going to go over. I will urge everybody to say it was obvious that Cody Rhodes was going to go over because the guy wants his belt back, and he's going to get his belt back. Definitely at SummerSlam. I see him beating John Cena eventually. But Cody Rhodes defeated Randy Orton and won the King of the Ring tournament. And whoever wins the King of the Ring tournament, of course, gets a title shot at SummerSlam. And from what it looks like, we're going to be getting Cody Rhodes and John Cena 2 at SummerSlam. Their first match ended in disappointment, not because John Cena won, but because of the fact that the match just abruptly ended. Not to mention, there was nothing really special about that match. Now looking back, of course, it ended via Travis Scott, and a lot of fans hated that Travis Scott was involved. But it is what it is. The past of the past. WWE has another chance to rectify that with Cody Rhodes and John Cena at SummerSlam. But Cody Rhodes beats Randy Orton in a pretty good opening match. Again, the crowd in Saudi Arabia, I mean, from the moment Randy Orton made his entrance, they were nothing but singing his theme song. And that's really the norm whenever WWE goes to an international market. Whenever, a veteran comes out, whether that's a CM Punk or a Randy Orton, or if you watch an AEW show, and if you guys remember Grand Slam Australia when Adam Copeland came out, the fans just sung his theme. They sang their theme songs, which I love. But that, of course, has made it to the U.S. as well. Now you hear U.S. crowds singing Randy Orton's theme song as well, which is great. But we had Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton, and the match was what a Cody Rhodes Randy Orton match was. It was a Headlock City, but it was a pretty good match. I'm not gonna lie, it was a pretty good opener to kick off the show. Not to mention the crowd was invested in it. Cody Rhodes went over. Randy Orton, of course, tried to cheat. He tried to hit him with a chair, but didn't work. The referee caught him. Then, of course, Randy Orton tried to go for the punk kick, but he missed. Then what happened? Of course, Randy Orton exposed the turnbuckle, and he ended up messing himself up. And then Cody Rhodes ended up getting the win via the Crossroads and won the match. And he officially wins King of the Ring and is going to go on and face John Cena at SummerSlam. That is the night, in my opinion, that Cody Rhodes will go over and he will beat John Cena for the title. That's just what I see happening. Eventually, John Cena is going to turn back as a babyface because we're already in the middle of his retirement run. And by the later half of his retirement run, he's eventually going to be a babyface. There's no doubt about it. But Cody Rhodes won King of the Ring as expected. Randy Orton had a weird look on his face after he lost the match. But what I see happening is that we're eventually going to run this back. They're definitely going to run back Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton, and we're going to have a full-fledged feud between the two because people need to understand, ever since Cody Rhodes won the title, everybody expected Cody Rhodes to have a feud with Randy Orton, considering their history as a part of Legacy. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. I assume Randy Orton is going to be a heel if that happens, but it's only a matter of time. My prediction is that we're going to be getting a feud between the two throughout the fall. But we're going to have to wait and see. This is definitely not the last of Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Then we had Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez in a street fight, which honestly, I just wasn't interested at all in this match. Not saying that the match was bad. I'm just saying, to me, the match I had no interest in the match whatsoever. To me, I did not care at all. Rhea Ripley ended up getting the win. We had Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross. This match was actually a replacement. If you guys think about it, this match was a replacement because originally we were supposed to be getting Dominic Mysterio versus AJ Styles for the Intercontinental title. But unfortunately, Dominic Mysterio, I believe, got injured. And I believe the week prior, Liv Morgan got injured as well. So they canceled the match and replaced it with Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross, which I believe this is Karrion Kross's first main roster match, I believe, in 3 years. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Karrion Kross, man, a lot of discourse on Karrion Kross. I mean, the guy isn't really being pushed the way he should be. This guy is honestly a destined main eventer, and WWE's just doing nothing but putting him by the wayside. But I will say, a program between Karrion Kross and Sami Zayn is fantastic because, I mean, Sami Zayn can make anybody look good. Sami Zayn can make anybody look good, and he can sell you on anything. And I feel like the Sami Zayn feud is actually doing him justice, in my opinion. But I feel like we should be getting more when it comes to Karrion Kross. Not to mention, there was a report that came out a couple of days ago that said the reason why Karrion Kross is not getting a push within the WWE is because of the fact that he doesn't like hitting bumps, which is ludicrous in my mind. Whoever wrote that report is clearly lying, because I don't know where that came from, but clearly it's just tabloid BS, in my opinion. Karrion Kross even addressed this rumor that came out, and he stated this, and I quote, "I thought that all of my crazy articles that are fabricated about me every week, that was the weakest. There was another wild one that I saw last week that was even funnier. I said something like Karrion Kross is going to come to Monday Night Raw and he's going to quit and do a shoot promo live and then walk out. I thought that was a good one, but I don't respond to any of them. There's a crazy one about me every week or two. It's just kind of have to you just kind of have to laugh, which is what Karrion Kross says. So clearly he doesn't care, but I mean there's always ludicrous stories about Karrion Kross. Clearly WWE's not, I don't want to say not caring about him, but I feel like they could do a better job at Karrion Kross, because Karrion Kross is the type of individual that you really want at the top of the card. And the guy can cut a phenomenal promo. WWE's always been a promotion that focuses on more of a connection. They focus more on connecting with the audience than in-ring work. But all of a sudden, he doesn't want to take bumps. I mean, what a ludicrous rumor is that? It's kind of hypocritical on WWE's end if that's true, but I doubt it's true. But still, Karrion Kross, in my opinion, deserves better. End off. I mean, for God's sakes, the guy was the #1 selling merch on WWEshop.com for a couple of months ago. He was literally the top seller on WWEshop.com a couple of months ago, and the guy's still not getting pushed. We're going to have to wait and see what happens, but still, I think Karrion Kross deserves better. But who knows? I mean, I thought the match with Sami Zayn was great. Sami Zayn, of course, got a great hometown reception by the fans in Saudi Arabia. They absolutely loved him. But Sami Zayn went over in this match. Moving on, we had Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu for the United States Championship. Of course, Jacob Fatu won the U.S. title at WrestleMania. And a lot of people are not really digging the feud between Solo Sikoa and I don't want to necessarily say they're not digging it, but I just feel like everybody's tired of Solo Sikoa, at least me. I'm tired of the whole Solo Sikoa bloodline. I've been through with it for months at this point. Of course, they ran the angle of Jacob Fatu turning on Solo Sikoa during the Money in the Bank ladder match, which was a great moment in and of itself, because everybody knew eventually Jacob Fatu was going to break away from Solo Sikoa. I mean, it was bound to happen. From the moment the guy signed last summer, everybody knew that Solo Sikoa was going to break away from not Solo Sikoa. Jacob Fatu was going to break away from Solo Sikoa. So, I mean, it made total sense. But, of course, we had a match between Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. Hikuleo showed up. Of course, Hikuleo is, from what it looks like, the new member of Solo Sikoa's bloodline. And he cost Jacob Fatu the match, which led to Solo Sikoa to get the win and go over and win the United States Championship. Jacob Fatu is no longer the U.S. champion. Now you got Solo Sikoa, you got JC Mateo, I still call him Jeff Cobb, Hikuleo, and Tangaloa and Tamatonga. So you got the whole bloodline right there. But in my opinion, I'm just not sold on it. I mean, Hikuleo was literally signed for months. People need to realize this. Hikuleo was signed for months. And he just made his debut a couple of months later. That's just me. But, I mean, I'm not sold by it, but maybe they will sell me on it. But the whole Solo Sikoa bloodline thing, in my opinion, I'm just through with it at this point. I'm through with it. I don't care about it. Eventually, Jacob Fatu is going to come back and he's going to beat Solo Sikoa in the future, probably at SummerSlam. I don't know, but I could care less in my opinion, because I already knew Hikuleo was signed. Jade Cargill versus Asuka in the Queen of the Ring tournament. Of course, Asuka made her return a couple of weeks ago. She made it to the finals of the Queen of the Ring tournament. Jade Cargill made her way to the finals of the Queen of the Ring tournament. Not a bad match. The match I felt ended a little bit abruptly. The pinfall attempt, or the pinfall that Jade won the match by, looked a little weird. I will say that it looked a little off because normally when she does the Jaded, she hits the Jaded and then immediately goes for the pinfall. But Jade Cargill, it looked a little weird. And again, it looked like it ended abruptly, but Jade Cargill ended up winning Queen of the Ring, and she will be facing, from what it looks like, she's going to be facing Tiffany Stratton for the women's title at SummerSlam. That's the match. And I would assume she's going to go over and win the title, and that opens the door for Naomi to cash in on Jade Cargill and become the women's champion, because if there's anybody deserving of a title at this point, it's Naomi, because she has been doing phenomenal work in 2025 ever since she turned heel. So it was great work on her end. All right, moving on to the main event. Of course, I'm going to be talking about John Cena versus CM Punk. Now, I will be the first one to tell you guys this right here and right now. I wish this match happened at SummerSlam. And no, I'm not saying that because I'm based from New Jersey. I'm not saying that because I want to see it. I want to see it in person in New Jersey, but like, it would have been a much better fit for SummerSlam, in my opinion. But I will say this: the way that WWE went about it throughout the build for Punk and Cena, I thought they did a phenomenal job. I thought WWE did a great job when it comes to the build between Punk and Cena. Of course, labeling Punk as a hypocrite for that tweet that he put out years ago when he was still sitting at home, not involved in wrestling whatsoever, calling out The Miz and said, you're going to go make some blood money. Of course, he's implying Saudi Arabia, because that was what everybody accused WWE of, making blood money. And people still accuse WWE to this day making blood money, but people need to realize that literally but many major businesses do business in Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, it's no shock at all anymore. But, of course, John Cena wanted to label CM Punk as a hypocrite. and the funny thing about that was it was true. It was true. And then, of course, last week on SmackDown, not this past Friday, the week before, John Cena replicated CM Punk's pipe bomb, his pipe bomb promo that he cut all the way back in 2011. And I talked about that last week. So the question that we all wanted to ask ourselves was, what was CM Punk going to be doing in retaliation? What was CM Punk going to be doing in retaliation? Well, we got our answer, and the answer was Punkonomics. That's what it was. The answer was Punkonomics. CM Punk came out with a jersey, of course, dressed like John Cena back in 2003, 2004, 2005. He was dressed as the John Cena version, that being the Doctor of Thugonomics. He came out to Word Life, but instead of the Titantron saying Word Life, it said Punk Life, which was hilarious. And then, of course, he comes out. John Cena's just all shocked. Keep in mind, this was in Saudi Arabia. So this was just funny stuff. And then what happened after that was CM Punk was about to rap. Yeah, CM Punk was about to rap. And I'm going to repeat word by word what CM Punk stated in this rap right here. Yo, check it. This is basic Punkonomics. Don't adjust your television set. Your eyes are working just right. This clown plagiarized my pipe bomb, so now I'm stealing Word Life. You had to rip me off to cut your best promo, just to distract from the fact that we all see you move in slow-mo. Remember when he used to rap, you deserve all the criticism. You're like Timu Macklemore with Mackle-less rhythm. He said, I'm a problem. He called me a player hater. But let's be honest, John Cena's buried more talent than The Undertaker. That I marked out for. I'm not going to lie. That was crazy. That's why he's the champ and went and lost all his respects. But John, I get it. I'd retire too if this place rehired my ex. I don't know about that. If you never said your prayers, ate your vitamins, or fixed your bald spot, you wouldn't be a pro wrestler. You'd be a Boston mall cop. But hey, he gets good movie roles. That much is a fact. And then you see Batista act and you realize John ain't that. Same shirt, same hat. Man, your persona stayed tragic. You're like a fish-bellied white Hulk Hogan, but somehow you're more problematic. Yo, when it comes to the best in the world, I'm your vessel. Because millions chant my name, and at you, they chant, you can't wrestle. Get in while you can. In 6 months, he'll be gone. I'll still be here having fun. But he won't have the time for you little people anymore because he'll be busy washing underwear for James Gunn. Because he's going to be working for DC. Well, he was Peacemaker, so he's technically now working for DC. But James Gunn, if you guys don't know, was the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Not to mention, he's the head of the new DC studios, which they're going to be coming out with Superman. It's coming out in July, which I'm excited about, by the way. But that's another story for another time. I'm gonna stop marking out over here. He's a superhero now. He works for DC. But no matter how hard you try, you'll always be the Marine to me. Ouch. And that's straight to DVD. Better find a PS3. I now understand you can't see me. That was a really good line. He said he's a superhero now. He works for DC, but no matter how hard you try, you'll always be the Marine to me. If you guys don't know what that means, of course, The Marine was John Cena's first film back in 2006. That was, of course, under WWE Studios when remember WWE Studios when they were like, you know what, we're not going to let our wrestlers, go out and pursue their own Hollywood dreams. We're going to make movies for them. Let's make movies for them. And they were D-level, F-level movies that were absolutely horrible, like horrible movies. And The Marine was one of them and spawned 6 sequels? It was terrible. But that was The Marine for you guys. Continuing on with this rap. It's a hell of a catchphrase, John, but now that it's done, because we all see you and we're looking at a washed up bum. 14 years ago today, I dropped the legendary pipe bomb and you tried to make it all about you because that's what you do, John. You're a leech. You're a phony. You're a fraud. You're an ass kiss. 17-time champion, but you ain't never been on my class. Before you go, John, there's one more wish I'd like to make. Tomorrow night, you're going to lose to Kendrick because, bitch, you're my Drake. That was crazy. But yeah, that was the whole John Cena rap, or I should say CM Punk rap to John Cena. What are my thoughts on it? It was hilarious. I 100% enjoyed this whole rap that happened. It was entertaining. It was everything that you would expect a CM Punk like rap to be. I mean, first off, I never expected CM Punk to rap, but clearly he did a pretty good job. Or he had John Cena himself behind the scenes was like, yo, this is what you got to do. You got to do this. You got to do that. But I digress. That was phenomenal work by CM Punk. Again, I've always said this. The build between both Punk and Cena throughout the past couple of weeks was phenomenal. It all started with the promos before the Cena pipe bomb, but once the Cena pipe bomb happened, you knew this was going to be something special. Not to mention, after that pipe bomb, you got to give a lot of credit to CM Punk because a lot of people, and I'm going to be brutally honest, a lot of people were criticizing, and me included, were criticizing the direction of the not the CM Punk, but the John Cena heel run. A lot of people deemed the John Cena heel run as a disappointment. And if you look back at the first half of 2025 throughout this whole retirement tour that John Cena's going on, I mean, you got to be honest. Those first few months as John Cena, with John Cena as a heel, they have been a disappointment. And a large portion of that has to do with The Rock, because clearly The Rock originally wanted Cody Rhodes to turn heel, but then Triple H was like, no, it makes no sense because it doesn't make any sense. And then The Rock was like, you know what, fine. Let's have John Cena turn heel. Triple H was like, okay, yeah, let's have him turn heel and let's have him join The Rock. Let's have him join the final boss. Elimination Chamber comes around. John Cena turns heel. It goes viral on the internet. Everybody goes crazy. And then everybody expects The Rock to show up with John Cena at WrestleMania, but that didn't happen. And then The Rock spilled his beans the next night after John Cena won his title, he spills his beans and says, "Oh yeah, the final boss's work is done. The final boss's work is done. I shouldn't be a part of that. Blah blah blah." So essentially, he was saying that, yeah, I had John Cena join me, but I'm not going to show up at all. I'm not going to show up because it wouldn't make any sense, even though it does make sense because clearly the whole angle that was shot was John Cena joining The Rock. Meanwhile, The Rock was like, the final boss's work here is done. I'm going to sabotage Triple H's booking, and I'm not going to show up at WrestleMania. The Rock not showing up at WrestleMania single-handedly killed everybody's interest when it comes to the John Cena heel run. Everybody still loves John Cena, but we can all agree that the whole John Cena heel run up to that point had been a disappointment because it was just John Cena turning heel and that's it. There was there was just no purpose behind it, if you really think about it. That one purpose was The Rock, and The Rock decided not to show up. And that was the biggest problem right there. But with this whole CM Punk feud, it kind of reignited some energy when it comes to that John Cena heel run. And it made people more interested in that John Cena heel run now that he's feuding with CM Punk. Because we all know CM Punk is master class when it comes to, putting somebody over or making somebody look good. I mean, look at the feud that he had with MJF a couple of years ago. People need to understand that the feud that he had with MJF opened up another layer of MJF that we really hadn't seen before. And we got to know more of MJF's backstory. And a large portion of that had to do because of CM Punk and the feud that he had with MJF. So, again, CM Punk knows how things work. And that is what's phenomenal about that. But yeah, moving on. We then had CM Punk at the press conference or on the kickoff show, and he ended up apologizing to the Saudi Arabian fans, which was hilarious. So what happened was that CM Punk showed up and he stated this, and I quote, "I'm not perfect by any means. Sometimes as human beings, we screw up. The beautiful thing is everything is a lesson learned, and now here I am, and you have invited me to your country, and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you very much." And think about this. CM Punk was getting crapped on by the fans because, of course, if you guys don't know, of course, the tweet that constantly gets resurfaced over and over again, this was when CM Punk was still not involved with wrestling. He already left wrestling. This was like 4 years into that. And he tweeted at The Miz and he essentially accused him of making blood money, which I mean, essentially is true. But CM Punk ended up apologizing to the crowd. But in my opinion, I don't think it was a very sincere apology. It was kind of an apology, but that was like really, troll-like. But it is what it is. Overall, I mean, the whole basis of the whole John Cena and CM Punk feud was the fact that John Cena wants to make CM Punk a hypocrite, but at the same time, it is very true because when Punk first came back to the WWE, I didn't really think he was going to work Saudi Arabia. I was like, nah, he's not gonna, he's already a hypocrite for coming back, but there's always a saying in wrestling, never say never. I mean, everybody that says they're never going to come back eventually comes back. But still, he's still kind of going to look like a hypocrite. But it is what it is. But I love the fact that WWE is playing it up on television. And CM Punk, stands by it and is like, you know what? Yeah, I am. And I'm still making more money than ever. I don't care. I like that about CM Punk. So honestly, this shouldn't really be that big of a story, but I don't think CM Punk cares. You may think he cares, but I don't think he does care, but that's just me. But it is what it is. All right, moving on to the main event, we had, of course, CM Punk versus John Cena. Now, CM Punk versus John Cena, again, as I've stated earlier, this match should have taken place at SummerSlam because, again, I want to see that match in person, but clearly WWE wants to go in a different direction. And from what it looks like, and especially with the outcome of this match, they are going in a different direction because I believe the original rumor was that this match was supposed to take place at SummerSlam, but instead they moved it to Night of Champions. I remember when they first announced it, I was like, what? But now looking back, and especially with the build that we had, I'm not mad about it anymore. But we had CM Punk versus John Cena, And the match was pretty good. It was what you would expect from a CM Punk and John Cena match. And as I've stated at the top of the show, both guys always had great chemistry in the ring. If you don't believe me, watch Money in the Bank 2011. That was like when CM Punk. I mean, CM Punk was always a popular act, even before he came into the WWE. But he was always popular. But this was where his popularity just skyrocketed. Money in the Bank 2011. And the match that he had with Cena was great at that show. But also the match that they had on Raw back in 2013. I believe it was a number one contendership for the WWE title at WrestleMania 29. That match was off the chain as well. But this match, of course, was your typical Cena versus Punk shtick. And it was literally a great match. The crowd was just up on their feet throughout the entirety of the whole match. I mean, the crowd, like, they were moving all over the place. It was insane. But we're going to have a couple of notes of the match. Of course, later in the match, after, they're going back and forth, Seth Rollins and his crew comes out near the end of the match. And from what it looks like, at this point, the ref is knocked down. So what happened was John Cena was going for the shoulder tackles, but instead he hit the shoulder tackle on the referee, and the referee gets knocked down. So Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, I was about to say JC Mateo, Bronson Reed, and Paul Heyman come out, and from what it looks like, Seth Rollins is going to go for a cash-in. But what happens? Punk fights them off. Bronson Reed and Breaker pick him up and plant him through the announce table. Meanwhile, Seth Rollins is standing in the ring with his briefcase, but he calls out the referee. And once he calls out the referee, everybody's like, oh my God, he's going to recreate WrestleMania 31. Because if you guys don't know, back at WrestleMania 31, he cashed in on Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, leading the match to become a three-way. And he pinned, not Brock Lesnar, he pinned Roman Reigns and eventually became the WWE champion. I digress. Moving on. The referee, Charles Robinson, comes out, but then John Cena takes out the referee, which was so funny. I mean, Charles Robinson recreated that meme where he just ran from the stage all the way to the ring back at WrestleMania 24. Cena then argues with Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins tried to hit John Cena, but then Cena ducked and hit the AA. That was very babyface-like when it came to John Cena, because, of course, right now John Cena is a heel, and he AA'd another heel. So that looked like it was a very babyface move on Cena's end, ultimately teasing a potential babyface move in the future, which we all know is going to happen. So then John Cena argues with Seth Rollins. He tries to hit Cena. Cena ducks, hits the AA. Then Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed come in, and they attack John Cena. So then Pentagon comes out. He comes out for the save. He tries to take out Braun Breaker, but then Braun drops him on the ramp. Then after that, Sami Zayn comes out. So it's very, interference after interference after interference. It's overbooked to hell. After that, Sami brawls with Braun Breaker. They're like below the stage, and then Penta hits a crossbody off the stage on both men. Meanwhile, in the ring, Bronson Reed is on the top rope setting up the tsunami. Punk pushes him down, and then Cena ends up hitting the FU on Bronson Reed, and then the match is back one-on-one with CM Punk and Cena. After that, the crowd is just going absolutely ballistic. And then Punk and Cena face off. They sing the Ole, Ole, Ole. Punk offers a handshake, and then Cena accepts the handshake, and then he hugged CM Punk. So he hugged CM Punk, and then the camera panned directly to the face of John Cena, which you knew what the hell was about to go down. And then he tried to low blow CM Punk, but then Punk realizes it, and then he picks up Cena for the GTS. Rollins comes back, and then he hits Punk with the briefcase. Then he goes for the curve stomp. Rollins then gets sent to the outside, and what happens is, eventually John Cena immediately goes for the cover and gets the win and retains his title. So essentially, Seth Rollins cost CM Punk the World Championship. From what it looks like, we're going to be getting CM Punk versus John Cena at SummerSlam again. Whether or not it's going to be a one-on-one match or not, we're going to have to wait and see. But another thing to keep in mind is Roman Reigns, because, of course, Roman Reigns was a part of that whole feud back at WrestleMania. And, of course, Paul Heyman did turn on not only CM Punk, but he also turned on Roman Reigns. Now, we have an update regarding Roman Reigns, and everybody's actually expecting when Roman Reigns is going to return. And he's probably going to be returning very, very, very soon. So, according to WrestleVotes, they stated this, and I quote, "It seems that time of year again. Roman Reigns' return is on the horizon. Sources indicate his name has popped up internally in recent weeks, typically signaling the wheels are in motion for a return heading to the biggest party of the summer, implying that he's going to be returning for SummerSlam, either at SummerSlam or probably in the build to SummerSlam. We're going to have to wait and see what happens, but from what it looks like, we're definitely going to be getting a Roman Reigns return, and I would assume it's probably going to involve CM Punk and Seth Rollins. Maybe we could get a return at SummerSlam where they're probably going to book the one-on-one match between Rollins and Punk, and then they're going to have the return of Roman Reigns, because they did something very similar last year with Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa. They had Roman Reigns return. We're going to have to wait and see what happens, but keep Roman Reigns in mind because he's probably going to get involved in this, and we're definitely going to be getting a rematch between both CM Punk and Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. That 100%, I think at this point we all know, because essentially Seth Rollins did cost Punk the title. So I mean, it just makes sense. Now, in terms of John Cena, what is he going to be doing next? And from what it looks like, of course, we got SummerSlam, but we also got Saturday Night's main event. And is Cena going to be involved in Saturday Night's main event? I don't think so. I believe his next appearance is going to be around mid-July. So that's going to be past July 12th, I believe. So we're probably going to have to wait like 3 weeks. And by that point, Saturday Night's main event is already passed by. So we're probably not going to be getting John Cena at Saturday Night's main event. So we're probably going to be getting no John Cena for like the next 3 weeks. And then, we're going to be getting, the build between Cena and Cody. But they're probably, for those 3 weeks, is going to have Cody at least like cut promos on Raw and SmackDown, considering WWE just does not care about the brand split, but I digress. So we're going to be getting CM Punk and Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam, and essentially we're probably going to be getting CM Punk and Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. So those are two WrestleMania, I don't want to say two WrestleMania rematches. One of them is a WrestleMania rematch. The other one is a semi-rematch because, of course, Roman Reigns was involved in that equation at WrestleMania, but whatever. And I do think that essentially Roman Reigns is going to come back. When, I have no idea, but I would assume it's going to be soon. So yeah, that was Night of Champions. That was my brief recap of Night of Champions. Overall, I thought the show was not bad at all. I thoroughly enjoyed the show for what it was. Again, if you are a casual fan that was watching the show, the only two matches that only piqued your interest were the men's finals of the King of the Ring and John Cena and CM Punk. Those were the only... essentially, CM Punk and John Cena was the only match that sold people on this show. Now, granted, you're not paying for this show. I mean, you're paying for Peacock, but you're not essentially paying for the show itself. So, like, if this was on traditional pay-per-view, people would buy the show just for John Cena and CM Punk. That's it. But overall, the show was pretty good. I thought the crowd was absolutely phenomenal. And overall, would I rank this amongst probably the better PLEs this year? I wouldn't necessarily say so, but it was not a bad show whatsoever. I thoroughly enjoyed the show for what it was. All right, moving on. We got Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes potentially teasing a heel turn. Now, this was at Fanatics Fest, and Fanatics Fest, WWE had a huge presence at Fanatics Fest, and Cody Rhodes in a video to Kay Adams, he teased a potential heel turn, and he stated this, and I quote, "I'm a Cowboys fan because my sister cheered for the Cowboys. I'm an Eagles fan because I won in their stadium at WrestleMania, and they hosted me and treated me like family. I am a Falcons fan. Of course, I am a Falcons fan because I grew up in Georgia, and that's a hard fandom to be a part of," Rhodes said. "So I really don't have an allegiance. I'm open for business. That helps with being the good guy aspect of it. I don't ever get tired of it because you get to have all of this and these moments. I do think we're probably at the tail end of it, though, because there's only so much someone can like you. I would love to do it until the end of my career, but there's only so much. It's like, all right, we have to do his woe. We cheer for him. At a certain point, they want to see somebody else. I get that. And that's where you have to change as a character. Rhodes went on to state that if when he turns heel, he's all in and not the quote unquote cool kind of bad guy that fans still cheer for. Yet despite initially saying that he believed that he was at the tail end of his good guy run, he also added that he doesn't foresee a heel turn happening for at least another 1 to 3 years, noting, "I'm not changing until I am changed." Okay. So I don't think, this was coming straight out of the mouth of Cody Rhodes, but in my opinion, I genuinely believe this, and I feel like a lot of people believe this as well. It makes absolutely no sense for Cody Rhodes to turn heel at this stage of the game. There's been some talks recently about Cody Rhodes possibly turning heel. There has been a lot of talk of Cody Rhodes turning heel. Now, for all you people that have just watched Cody Rhodes in the WWE, like in this current run, I'm telling you guys right now, Cody Rhodes, like the American Nightmare character of Cody Rhodes, was a heel even before AEW started. So like he was a heel when he was a part of the Bullet Club. Like, dude, and he was a really good heel, but a heel that was like a horrible person. Like he was a really, really, really good heel. So Cody Rhodes can be the perfect heel. I'm not disputing the goodness of him being a heel. I think him being a heel would be great business. My argument is that right now should not be the time for us to discuss a Cody Rhodes heel turn. Why do I say that? Because we're at a point still where the fans they love Cody Rhodes. The fan base loves Cody Rhodes. Oh, but there's been a slight, people have been booing him slightly. Yes, slightly. But overall, people still love him. People, like, have you seen his entry? Like, people still love the guy. Eventually, they're going to grow tired of him. I believe that. Eventually, they're going to grow tired of him. But right now is not that time. I would assume fans are probably going to get tired of Cody. Probably maybe in the next year and a half. I give it a year and a half. I know for a fact WWE is planning a Cody Rhodes heel turn. We all know for a fact that that's bound to happen. But at this point, right now, I think it's bad business on WWE's end because the guy has been selling so much merch. It's insane. Like, the guy has been the number one merch seller on WWE for years at this point. Ever since he came back to the company back in 2022, the guy has been a draw. He's been a draw. The guy has been he's been a draw and he's been an attraction. So why do you want to mess that up at this point? Why do you want to mess it up at this point? I'm not saying that a heel turn would not be good business. It would be. I'm just saying, why would you jeopardize what you have now? That's the problem. The problem is not turning Cody Rhodes heel. The problem is turning Cody Rhodes heel now at this stage of the game. We're still at the peak of his babyface run. And it's not going to end anytime soon, in my opinion. I may be totally wrong. I know some people were proposing a double turn happening at SummerSlam between John Cena and Cody Rhodes. I don't know if I'm for that. I don't know if I'm for that because, again, Cody Rhodes is still a money guy. He's a money guy, and I think WWE should keep it that way for a while. I think it's a bad move on WWE's end to turn Cody heel at this stage of the game because, again, he's been selling merchandise. The guy has a great connection with the audience, and the fans still love the guy. Why do you want to jeopardize that? It'd be very similar to turning Steve Austin at WrestleMania 17. Hindsight is 2020. Turning Austin heel at WrestleMania 17 was a massive mistake on WWE's, and now you may say that Austin, it was Austin's idea and he proposed the idea of him turning heel. I understand that because Austin himself in interviews, he stated, hey, I felt like, my characters was starting to grow a little bit stale. Meanwhile, like the fans were still loving what Austin was doing. They were loving what Austin was doing. And WWE still went with them turning Austin heel back at WrestleMania 17. A WrestleMania, I might add, that is considered probably the greatest WrestleMania of all time. The greatest WrestleMania of all time ended with a massive mistake on the WWF's end, and that was turning Austin heel. And what did that lead to? Austin's heel run Hindsight is 2020. Austin's heel run as a heel was a disaster. Yeah, you had the two-man power trip with Triple H and all that, but then Triple H got injured, and then he joined the Alliance, which made no sense whatsoever. Some people may make the argument, oh, but the Alliance needed stars. Yeah, they needed stars, but Austin, Austin was a WWF guy. He was the antithesis. He was, well, not the antithesis of ECW, but he was against WCW. Like, of course, he got fired via telephone. He came back, and then, of course, he came up with the Stone Cold Steve Austin character. That's just a brief summary. Of course, he was stunning Steve Austin, and then he was also the ringmaster, but you get my drift. But he was the antithesis of everything that was against WCW. He was like literally the WWF's poster child, and he joins up with the Alliance. Not to mention the WCW and ECW Alliance made no sense because ECW hated WCW. So why are they joining together? It made no sense. It was a crap show. But still, he joins up with the Alliance. It was a failure, and then they turned him back babyface at the end of 2001. I don't want to necessarily say that's going to be a very similar instance if they turn Cody Rhodes heel now, but still, I just think turning him heel at this stage of the game just doesn't make any sense at all. It's a dumb idea on every metric. On every metric, it just doesn't make any sense. If we were living in an age where the fans were starting to revolt against Cody, then I would understand it. And I'd be totally for Cody turning heel. I'd be like, yeah, turn this guy heel, because Wrestling 101 always dictates this. Whenever you're pushing somebody as a babyface and the guy that you are trying to push as a babyface is not gravitating towards the audience and the audience is rejecting the babyface that you are trying to push or essentially shove down all of the people's throats, the number one thing that you should be doing is turning them heel. You turn them heel, they do a lot better in terms of quality, and then over time the fans are starting to love the guy, then you turn him back as a babyface. We saw that with Roman Reigns. Of course, for years, Roman Reigns was being pushed down as a babyface, but essentially the fans hated it. They revolted against Roman Reigns because you could tell it was a manufactured Vince McMahon project, and the fans hated that. They had Daniel Bryan at the palm of their fingertips, and they still went with Roman Reigns. So what do? They went with turning Roman Reigns heel back during the pandemic in 2020. And it literally reignited Roman Reigns as a character. The tribal chief character of Roman Reigns, that made him, that literally made Roman Reigns into an even bigger star at that point. And arguably, it made Roman Reigns into, honestly, one of the greatest acts of all time on WWE programming. But they turned Roman Reigns heel because, again, they needed to turn Roman Reigns heel. At this point, you don't need to turn Cody Rhodes heel at this point. It's bad business, in my opinion. And it's clearly stating that you want to do things at the moment and not look at something in the long term. I feel like that was what we saw with John Cena. I feel like we got the John Cena heel turn because we never seen like this current incarnation of John Cena as a heel. People need to understand John Cena was a heel when he first got started. So he came in as a babyface back in 2002. He got called up from OVW. He made his main roster debut against Kurt Angle in 2002. He was briefly a babyface, and then he slowly but surely started to turn heel, and he became the Doctor of Thugonomics, John Cena. So throughout the majority of 2003, he was a heel. But then a lot of fans loved him, so they turned him back as a babyface. And then he hasn't been a heel since then until now. But again, when it comes to the John Cena heel turn, I feel like it was a case of WWE wanting to, looking at the whole thing. Now that we know the whole story with The Rock and all the drama involving that, I feel like it was a case of them wanting to just get the moment of John Cena turning heel, not realizing the long-term effects of it. Now, granted, it's John Cena, so fans are going to love John Cena regardless. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to turning Cody Rhodes heel, I feel like it just doesn't make any sense at all. It's not the same thing, and it shouldn't happen at this point. It shouldn't happen at this point. Do it when you know the fans are starting to revolt. Do it when the fans are starting to revolt. Don't do it now. Don't do it now. It's just terrible business. And not to mention the idea of turning Cody Rhodes heel came from The Rock. The Rock originally wanted to turn Cody Rhodes heel. That's a real story, guys. And I believe The Rock even flat out said he wanted to turn Cody Rhodes heel. Clearly, The Rock doesn't watch the show, even though he's a board member of TKO, but whatever. The guy, like, dude, it's all like about The Rock. Like, he wants things in the moment, but he doesn't think about the long-term effects of it. And I think that's the problem that I see with The Rock. And I blame The Rock because I mean, I even think before The Rock came out with the idea of Cody turning heel, I think WWE had the idea of Cody turning heel, but that was only in a couple of years. But Rock wanted to do it now. Rock wanted to do it now. He wanted to do that now, but whatever. I digress. Cody turning heel again at the end of the day is a failure amongst failures at this point. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. It's bad business. You're essentially throwing away millions of dollars that you still could have made with Cody as a babyface. That's just me. Oh, but they didn't turn John Cena heel during his peak. Yeah, they didn't. You want to know why? Because he still made money for them. Even though I probably would have turned him heel, but that's a different story. They had the chance of turning John Cena heel back in 2012, but they didn't do it. Looking back, maybe it was probably the right decision. Who knows? But one thing is for sure. Cody Rhodes turning heel at this stage of the game in 2025, at the peak of his popularity. I'm now granted, you may think that the peak of his popularity was last year. I still think he's still relatively popular with the audience. He's still relatively popular. Is he getting a little stale? You may think so, but I honestly don't think he's still getting stale, but maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. But it just doesn't make any sense. It's a ludicrous idea to think. It's a ludicrous idea to think, in my opinion. It's a very ludicrous idea. All right, moving on. Moving on with Cody Rhodes. Of course, we got more news right here on this edition of the WrestleHavoc Podcast. Of course, it's a relatively short show. Of course, we talked about Cody Rhodes. We talked about, of course, Night of Champions, which took place last night. Now we got the release date. The release date for the WWE Unreal docuseries. Now, if you guys don't know, Netflix is going to be releasing a docuseries called WWE Unreal. And it's literally, taking you behind the scenes of what happens at a WWE event, and it essentially shows you the creative process. And of course, it sparked a lot of conversations about kayfabe and, essentially, they're breaking kayfabe. And we see it with the press conferences as well. We would have The Rock show up as the final boss. And then all of a sudden we have, just normal Dwayne Johnson at the press conference, which I absolutely hate. I genuinely believe that we should just have guys be their characters on the show and stay in character for the press conferences. Like, that's what they should do. New Japan does that perfectly. New Japan, what they do is they have all the action happen in the ring, and then the guys stay in character when it comes to, like, the post-show interviews, which I absolutely love. That people need to really take into consideration. Very few guys do that. I mean, MJF does it. Tony Storm does it. Roman Reigns, to a certain point, does it. But, like, you have some people that, are a heel during the show, and then when they come to the press conference, they immediately break kayfabe. Now, granted, I will say this. Kayfabe is dead. Kayfabe is dead. We all know the cat's out of the bag. Wrestling is not real. Wrestling is not real, but what we have seen with this new ownership is that TKO is essentially treating WWE as just, how do I say it? Like they're advocating, like, and they're essentially like telling the audience while they're watching wrestling that wrestling is a work. This is my problem with that. Everybody watching wrestling knows it's a work. People need to understand this. You have people come up to fans like me saying, "Why do you still watch wrestling?" And I in response ask to these people, "Well, why do you watch Game of Thrones? Why do you watch The Sopranos? Why do you watch Suits? Why do you watch Shameless?" For those very reasons as to why you like those shows is the reason why I like wrestling. That is why. If you are asked, why do you still watch wrestling? Not in retaliation, but in response, ask them, why do you watch The Sopranos? Why do you watch Shameless? Why do you watch Suits? Why do you watch Game of Thrones? Remember on the first Raw on Netflix? Remember on the first Raw on Netflix, you had The Rock show up. The Rock comes out and he essentially thanks, he thanks TKO, he thanks all these investors, all that. He thanks the people at Netflix. And then he thanks Cody Rhodes, which, by the way, Cody Rhodes was the guy that was feuding with The Rock throughout the majority of the beginning of 2024 in the build-up to WrestleMania 40. He shows up at Bad Blood, teasing a potential match with Cody Rhodes, which ultimately led to nothing. And then all of a sudden he thanks Cody Rhodes. Not to mention WWE has the audacity to show Cody Rhodes and The Rock sharing tequila together. What's the problem with that? Well, the problem is essentially you outdone everything that you have done the previous year. That's what you did. And you're telling your audience, yeah, everything that you saw is just deemed useless. That's the problem with WWE acknowledging that this is a work on their television program. Because they do it, and it drives me absolutely nuts. We watch wrestling because we want to escape reality. We watch wrestling because we just want to be entertained and love watching interesting storytelling play out. That's why we love wrestling. But at the same time, my argument could be very hypocritical considering I have a wrestling podcast that talks about the behind the scenes aspects of wrestling, and people like that too. So there's pros and cons when it comes to the WWE Unreal docuseries that's coming out on Netflix. I'm actually very interested in it. I'm very interested in it. Now, we finally got a release date when it comes to the documentary. And the documentary will make its debut on Tuesday, July 29th. And season 1 will consist of 5 episodes, with each of them being 50 minutes long. 50 minutes long. I'm reading this from f4wonline.com. WWE stated this, and I quote, "For the first time ever, step into the WWE writer's room and outside the ring with your favorite WWE superstars, where the drama is just as intense offstage as it is under the spotlight." Netflix's description for the show says, "The show is produced by WWE, Skydance Sports, NFL Films, and Peyton Manning's Omaha Productions. The NFL legend Manning is listed as one of the executive producers for quote-unquote WWE Unreal, along with Jamie Horowitz, Ross Kedover, Keith Cosrow, Ken Rogers, Jessica Body, Lee Fitting, Ben Hauser, and Mark Pomarico. WWE Unreal has been in development since WWE entered with its partnership with Netflix, which became the broadcast home of Raw at the start of 2025. Netflix also carries a wider array of WWE programming in international markets outside of the United States. And of course, they already released the official teaser a couple of months ago, back in April. So yeah, they're going to be coming out with the Unreal documentary. And in my opinion, I'm excited about it. I'm very interested to see what goes on, especially when we had the whole, not Cody Rhodes situation, but the whole John Cena heel turn situation, because everybody's very curious about what went down. Because I think it's safe to say, I think we can all agree with this. There has been some sort of a power struggle behind the scenes creatively within WWE. Because if you notice, this is like the second time that this has happened. The Rock comes in when he wants to and essentially interferes with the creative process that Triple H is trying to do. And Triple H and The Rock had a history, of course, of not liking each other, especially back in the days of their wrestling career. But this is a whole different scenario. I mean, I do believe The Rock was trying to sabotage Triple H's booking, but I'm very curious to see what happens in this series that's going to be airing on Netflix. I'm very curious to see what goes down. I know a lot of people are going to be talking about what happens on this show, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens, man. This is definitely a very interesting series to watch, and we're going to have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, those are my thoughts on WWE Unreal. All right, Moving on with the WrestleHavoc podcast, we are going to be talking about Tony Hinchcliffe, because if you guys don't know, Tony Hinchcliffe is a big wrestling fan. Of course, I'm talking about the comedian. WWE is going to be hosting WWE Late Night featuring Tony Hinchcliffe, set for SummerSlam weekend. I'm reading this from their press release that they released 2 days ago. WWE today announced that the WWE Late Night featuring Tony Hinchcliffe will take place at the Bergen Performing Arts Center in Englewood, New Jersey on Saturday, August 2nd at 11 p.m. Eastern as part of SummerSlam weekend. Hinchcliffe, the internationally renowned comedian, one of the top roasters in the world and the mastermind behind Kill Tony, will bring together soon-to-be-announced top comics, entertainers, and WWE superstars for an unforgettable night of laughs and huge surprises. Of course, an exclusive pre-sale opportunity for the closed-doors, non-televised event. Yes, this will not be televised. WWE did a very similar thing with the Roast of WrestleMania, which took place, I believe, immediately after WrestleMania in Las Vegas a couple months ago. The pre-sale will begin on Monday, June 30th, and you can buy your tickets at Ticketmaster.com. I'm very interested in this. As someone who's planning on going to SummerSlam, I don't know if I'm going to go. Maybe I will, but I'm very curious to see what happens. I mean, it's at Bergen Pack, so it's in Inglewood, so it's not like that far away from MetLife Stadium. But we're going to have to wait and see. I'm very curious. I mean, we did see leaks on social media when it came to the Roast of WrestleMania, and it was a very similar event to this. But, I mean, I don't know. It's something that will pique my interest. I'm probably going to go because, I mean, I'm planning on going to WrestleCon. I'm planning on going to SummerSlam. So, like, I don't know. I mean, it's taking place at 10:30 p.m. and then I got to drive for like an hour. So, like, I don't know if I'm probably going to go, but I don't know. It's very interesting, man. I mean, you're going to have a lot of comedians over there. You're going to have some wrestlers over there. I believe Paul Heyman was at the Roast of WrestleMania, so maybe Paul Heyman could be a part of this. I don't know, but it's going to be non-televised. It's going to be closed door, even though people are going to leak it. But yeah, that's the announcement of Tony Hinchcliffe's WWE Late Night. All right, moving on with the WrestleHavoc podcast, we are going to close the show by running down the card for not WWE, AEW All In. Yes, AEW All In. We had more matches announced for All In. Of course, All In's going to be taking place in 2 weeks. It's going to be taking place on July 12th. I mean, bro, that weekend's going to be packed, man. We're going to be having All In, Saturday night's main event on the same day. Now, granted, they're not going head-to-head, but they're going to be happening on the same day. Of course, initially, All In moved from 8 p.m. Eastern to 3 p.m. Eastern simply because of the fact that they knew that WWE was going to counter-program them. And they did with that Saturday night's main event. Not to mention, they counter-programmed 3 shows against AEW. Of course, they have the NXT Great American Bash show that is going to be taking place head-to-head with All In, which, let's be honest with ourselves, if you watch both products, are you honestly going to be watching NXT Great American Bash when you're watching All In? I doubt it. And not to mention the card for All In Texas is stacked at this point. Not to mention, after that, we have Saturday night's main event, which will be taking place 8 p.m. Eastern time, and it's going to be taking place in Atlanta. So we got that, and then WWE has the Evolution All Women's pay-per-view the next night. So they got 3 shows countering AEW All In weekend, which is absolutely crazy to think. But running down the card for AEW All In, of course, we had 3 matches announced. We had the AEW, we actually had 4 matches announced for this card. The AEW Tag Team titles are on the line as the Hurt Syndicate will take on Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight, which honestly, I think the Hurt Syndicate are going to retain those titles. I mean, there's no way. As much as I like Mike Bailey, they're not going to win the tag team titles. We got the Men's Casino Gauntlet match, and the first member to be announced as a part of that Casino Gauntlet match is Mark Briscoe, and more to be announced. Now, that match is very interesting considering there's 2 possibilities that we could see when it comes to the Casino Gauntlet match. Either we're probably going to have MJF because, of course, MJF has been teasing on AEW television that he's going to go after the AEW World Championship, and whoever wins, whether that's Hangman Page, that Millennial Cowboy, or Dictator John, as MJF would like to call him, he's going to go after the AEW World Championship. Of course, he's in this big storyline with the Hurt Syndicate, which I think we all know MJF is playing them for a fool, but they're doing the slow build when it comes to that, and I think it's a smart move on AEW's end. But AEW, maybe this could be a chance for MJF to go and win the Casino Gauntlet, or this could open the door for Darby Allin, because of course we all know Darby Allin has finished up with Mount Everest. He took time off to go climb Mount Everest, and thankfully Darby Allin survived. And of course, it sparked a lot of conversation as to who is possibly going to dethrone Jon Moxley. A lot of people do not want it to be Darby Allin, even though it would make sense for Darby Allin to be the guy to do it. I think at this point, I think they should put the belt on Hangman Page and just get this whole Death Rider thing over with. But the Casino Gauntlet match could definitely open the door for guys like MJF or Darby Allin to be a part of it, of this match, and essentially win, a title shot. We have the Women's Casino Gauntlet match. We have one woman announced, and it is Kris Statlander. We also got Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay. Now, it's been set up. It's not officially announced, but it's already set up. Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay. Those guys will team up together, and they will be facing up against the Young Bucks. And it hasn't been announced, but from what it looks like, that match is going to be taking place at All in Texas, which honestly is the perfect, mishmash, you would say, because originally, if you guys don't remember, a couple of months ago, there was a backstage segment involving Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page, where both men were arguing with each other because they absolutely hate each other in kayfabe. And Swerve was like, "You burned my house down." And then Hangman replied, "You deserved it." And then Swerve Strickland replied, "I know." And from what it looked like, it was like a tease for Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page to team up against the Young Bucks. From what it looks like, that is no longer going to be the case. AEW went the safe route, and they went with Hangman Page versus Jon Moxley because, honestly, it just makes the most sense. And instead, they had Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland, which was very great to see. Now, we did have a closing angle with the Death Riders beating down Hangman Page to close up Dynamite. And what's very interesting is that Will Ospreay came out, but Swerve Strickland did not come out. So there's a lot of storyline possibility when it comes to this whole scenario. But we're going to be having Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay teaming up together to face off against the Young Bucks, which I'm definitely interested in. The International Championship and the Continental title will be unified to create the AEW Unified Championship. Kenny Omega will be facing Kazuchika Okada. This match is going to go over very well with the audience. It's going to be a phenomenal match. The name, the Unified Championship, to me makes no sense, but a part of me is kind of afraid, and I talked about this 2 weeks ago as to why they unveiled the Unified Championship. I'm kind of afraid that it's probably going to be a scenario in which it's going to be treated as a secondary World Championship, considering Jon Moxley will still have the World Championship, the actual World Championship, hostage. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens. We got the AEW Women's title on the line as Toni Storm will be facing off against Money Mercedes Moné. This is a money match. Let's be real honest with ourselves. This is a money match. But I will say, I'd be lying to you if I said that I have been interested in Mercedes Moné run so far in AEW, because I haven't, quite frankly. I haven't really been interested in Mercedes Moné run in AEW so far. Toni Storm, on the other hand, I've been enjoying Toni Storm. I mean, Toni Storm is just absolutely fantastic. I'm afraid that Mercedes Moné is going to get another championship. I mean, she just won another championship at Grand Slam Mexico. She won the CMLL Women's title. So she got like the New Japan Strong Women's title, the TBS title, the CMLL. Like, bro, she got a bunch of titles all around her. She has like 6 belts on her. And I'm like, what? Do I think she's going to add the AEW Women's Championship to her arsenal? I doubt it. I don't know. Knowing Tony Khan, he's probably going to put the belt on her because he thinks it's going to work, but I don't know. I think they should stick with Toni Storm, because Toni Storm is actually somebody who, you can build a women's division around. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that against Mercedes Moné. I love Mercedes Moné. But I just feel like her run has been lackluster. I'm going to be realistic with you guys. Not to say that she's had bad matches. She's had great matches. But again, I haven't really been invested in what Mercedes Moné has been doing. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. The AEW World Championship will be on the line as MJF would say, Dictator John Moxley will be taking on Hangman Adam Page. Of course, Hangman Page won the Owen Hart Cup tournament, and he beat Will Ospreay back at Double or Nothing, and now he's granted this title shot. And now we got the main event set for AEW's biggest show of the year. Who's going to be winning? Who's going to be winning? Hangman Page should be the guy to win. Hangman Page should be the guy to win, end off. No doubt about it. He should be the guy to win. Why do I say that? I say that because of the fact that the Death Rider storyline hasn't, and I mean hasn't been successful at all. It has been a failure. And if you really want to do away with that, it's best to put the belt on Hangman Page, because clearly he is the guy to do that. Yes, I would love Darby Allin to be the guy to dethrone Jon Moxley. I'm actually one of those people that actually think it'd be a great idea. But if you're looking at it at the scope of the fan reaction, I think fans would revolt on that, because again, they just want the Death Rider storyline to end. They just want the storyline to end. They want the storyline to end, and Hangman Page is the best bet. Now, I will say this. If Hangman Page gets the win, you can still do the whole Death Rider shtick. Don't kill off the Death Riders in a sense, like just kill off their motive to take over AEW, because clearly they haven't. Every time when somebody says we're going to take over AEW, I always ask this question. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? You know? But you know, keep the Death Riders around, but reshape the Death Riders. Repackage the Death Riders. Still call them the Death Riders, but have a different direction when it comes to the Death Riders. A direction that fans will actually gravitate towards. That's my opinion. But again, when it comes to Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada, they're fighting for a unified championship. And from what it looks like, reading the reports, it's going to be treated as a secondary world championship. So if that's going to be the case, is Hangman Page going to beat Jon Moxley? Who's going to win the Casino Gauntlet? Because think about this, you need to understand this. Because the Casino Gauntlet is going to happen before the main event. If Darby Allin comes out and wins the Casino Gauntlet, by that point, you already know who's going to be winning the main event, and it's going to be Jon Moxley. My concern with that is the fan outrage, because I know for a fact everybody's as soon as Darby Allin is going to come out and he wins the Casino Gauntlet, everybody is going to be like, oh damn, Moxley's going over. Here we go again. It is Dynasty all over again. You had Hangman Page at the palm of your hands, but nah. You had to wait for Darby Allin. Even though I like Darby Allin. But still, fans are going to think that way. Fans are going to think that way. And I don't blame them for thinking that way. But if MJF wins, maybe we have a different direction on our hands. Because they're not going to do MJF versus Jon Moxley. It makes no sense. Why would you have two heels going at each other? If MJF wins, it actually has a higher probability of Hangman Page actually going over at All In and beating Jon Moxley. We're going to have to wait and see. Or they could do the safe thing and have Darby Allin help Hangman Page get the win at All In. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. But one thing I will say about this match, and this is actually a good thing that I'm going to be saying about this match, is that Jon Moxley and Hangman Page is actually unpredictable. I will say that. It is an unpredictable match that you don't know who's going to win. And it sparks a lot of people's interest, which I'm very curious about, which I'm very happy about. And honestly, I'm excited. I'm excited. I think the Death Riders are going to end at All In. So yeah. But yeah, that was the WrestleHavoc podcast from June 29th, 2025. We definitely talked a lot on this edition of the show. Of course, we talked about Night of Champions. We talked about Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, All In, and a lot of other stuff that has taken place in the realm of professional wrestling. And of course, I'm going to be coming back next Sunday right here on not only the WrestleHavoc channel, but on the World News Network, WNN app, YouTube channel, and Facebook page. So if you guys want to follow those accounts, you guys can as well. Download the app as well. But not only that, subscribe to the WrestleHavoc channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the friggin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And of course, as always, it is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys all in the next video. Peace.